الدارسين كل سنة وانتم طيبين. النهارده هنكمل سلسلة الهوليديز والفاكيشنز. احنا اتكلمنا قبل كده على الكريسماس، على النيو يير، وخدنا توبيك كده خفيف، ايه الفرق بين الهوليديز والفاكيشنز. النهارده جايبه لكم كده هوليدي خفيفة نحتفل بيها قريب ان شاء الله، اللي هي البريزيدنتس داي. الكومبريهنشن هتعرفنا مين هو البريزيدنت اللي احنا بنحتفل بيه واللي بنحتفل بيه، وايه هو البريزيدنتس داي. البريزيدنتس داي ده يوم غالبا اليونايتد ستيتس كلها بتاخدوا اجازه في فبراير، بيبقى في فبراير. فخلونا نشوف ليه بنحتفل باليوم ده في فبراير، نشوف الكومبريهنشن بتاعتنا، هوفلي تعجبكم ان شاء الله. اوكي so who was George Washington؟ وين جايب لي هنا words to know، كلمات نعرفها. hero يعني بطل، وسيرفير اللي هو بيعمل عارفين انتوا اللي بيعمل مقياس للارض او بيعمل مساحه يعني يقول لك ده مهندس مساحه، يعني بيعمل مسح للارض. وانر يعني تكريم او شرف. خلونا نقرا كالعاده. read it once وبعد كده read and explain. طيب who was George Washington? The first U.S. president. What hero is shown on the order? George Washington is. George was born on February 22nd, 1732. That's why we celebrate it in February. It's the birthday of George Washington, the first U.S. president. George had a lot of different jobs. شوفوا بدأ ازاي عشان تعرفوا الستراجل الكفاح. First he was a farmer. Okay, then he worked as a land surveyor. Next, George was a soldier. He was a soldier for 5 years. George later led the U.S. Army in a war. After the war, George became the first president of the United States. He was president for 8 years. People honor George in many ways. The U.S. Capitol is named for him. His picture is on the $1 bill. His birthday is celebrated on President's Day, and the father of our country will always be remembered. Okay, خلونا نقراها once more time. Who was George Washington? مين كان جورج واشنطن؟ The first U.S. president، أول رئيس للولايات المتحدة. Who heroes shown on the quarter هو على الدولار بيل والكورتر. مين البطل اللي صورته باينة على الكورتر؟ على اللي هو 25 سنت. جورج واشنطن. هو جورج واشنطن. يبقى هو على الدولار بيل، ورقة الورق الدولار اللي هي البيبر النوت، وعلى الكوين بتاع الكورتر. جورج was born on February 22nd, 1732. اتولد في 22 فبراير في القرن ال 18، منتصف القرن ال 18، 1732. جورج had a lot of different jobs، كان عنده وظائف مختلفة كتير. First he was a farmer، أول كان فلاح مزارع بيزرع الأرض. Then he worked as a land surveyor، بعد كده بقى مساح للأرض، بيمسح مساحات الأرض، بيقيس مساحات الأرض. Next George was a soldier، بعد كده بقى جندي. He was a soldier for 5 years، قعد 5 سنين جندي. George later led the U.S. Army، في الآخر قاد الجيش الأمريكي كله in a war، في حرب. عارفين انتوا الحروب اللي هي السيفل وار. After the war، وحروب كتير دخل فيها. After the war George became the first president of the United States. بعد الحرب بقى أول رئيس للولايات المتحدة. He was president for 8 years، وكان رئيس لمدة 8 سنين. People honor George in many ways، بيكرموه بطرق كتير. أول حاجة the U.S. Capitol is named for him or after him، العاصمة مسمى على اسمه اللي هي واشنطن دي سي، District of Columbia. فواشنطن على اسمه، على اسم اللاست نيم بتاعه. His pictures on the $1 bill، يعني مش بس الكورتر، لا $1 bill كمان اللي هي عملة الورقية بتاعت الدولار. His birthday is celebrated on President's Day، احنا بنحتفل بعيد ميلاده في يوم President's Day اللي هو في فبراير. The father of our country will always be remembered، يعني الأب الروحي ال spiritual father بتاع بلدنا هيبقى دايما remembered، هنفضل فاكرين. Number George Washington's job in the correct order. هو بدأ ايه؟ احنا عايزين، هو جايبهم لي بس not an order. put them in order. soldier جندي، president رئيس، surveyor بتاع مساحة بيقيس مساحة الأرض، farmer مزارع، an army leader. Number 1 he started as a farmer. He started as a farmer يعني بدأ كفلاح أو كمزارع. Number 2 he became a land surveyor، بقى بيعمل مساحة الأرض، بيقيس مساحة الأرض. Number 3 he became a soldier for 5 years. Then he led the army for 8 years. 8 years I think. خلونا نشوف. No, he became a president for 8 years. يبقى he became a soldier for 5 years, then he led the army for some years. After the war, he was in a war. He fought in a war. After war, he became president. So again, he started his career as a farmer. Then he worked as a land surveyor, مزارع وبعد كده بيقيس مساحة الأرض. Later on, he became a soldier, and he was a soldier for 5 years. قعد 5 سنين جندي. Then he became an army leader. He led the army in the war, the US Army. قاد الجيش الأمريكي في الحرب. After the war, he became president بقى الرئيس for 8 years. So number 1 farmer, number 2 surveyor, number 3 soldier, number 5 حتى ده logical order يعني number 1 farmer, number 2 surveyor ترقى شوية بعد كده soldier بعد كده army leader بعد كده president. Circle the word below that past tells about George. Was he lazy? كسلان? Was he scared? خايف? Was he brave? شجاع? Was he selfish? أناني? Was he funny? أولا ما فيش أي حاجة تقول كان funny ولا لا. ثانيا مش ممكن يكون selfish لأنه he helped the country. He helped the US army. He led the army and he led the country as a president for 8 years. لو كان selfish ما كانش عمره فضل المدة دي كلها. So this is wrong. Brave? Yes, he was so brave. بدأ إنه قعد soldier 5 years. He led the army during a very serious, a very dangerous war, and he became a president for 8 years. So he was brave. He was not scared. And scared that's brave. مش معقول اختار الكلمة وانساها. And he was not lazy. He was very active. He worked. He had a lot of career, a lot of jobs. Look at the answer for number 2. Why do you think this is the best answer? احنا شرحناها already. He was a very brave soldier for 5 years. Then he led the US Army in a very serious and dangerous war. Then he was a president for 8 years. So he's very brave. He's an icon. يعني أيقونة. Number 4. Look back in the passage. Underline one way that people honor George. هم قايلين كذا way. Number 1. His pictures on, or his photo is on the $1 bill. Number 2, we celebrate his birthday as a national day, the President's Day. Number 3, the capital of the United States is named after him, or after his name, or for his name, Washington D.C. So دي كلها طرق بنحتفل بيها. He will be always remembered زي ما بيقول. Think about the passage. Why do you think George is called the father of our country? Write your ideas on the back of this sheet. Why, in your opinion? Because he's the true founder. هو المؤسس الحقيقي. Found يعني أسس. F-O-U-N-D. عارفين found the past of find. يلاقي حاجة I found the lost pen. لا, found بتيجي كمان present verb بمعنى to establish. Yes. So he is the true founder of this country. He was the spiritual father of this country. He led the army, the US Army, in a very crucial time. وقت حرج جدا. That's why he was so brave that he led the army. That's why he deserves to be the spiritual father of our country. So this was a very light passage, a very short one about the first president of the USA, George Washington. After his name, the capital of the USA was named George Washington, and the capital is Washington D.C. He was the founder of the USA, the true founder of the USA, the true founder of the army and the politics of the USA. He was the first president of the USA. That's why we celebrate his birthday every year in February as the President's Day. I hope you'd like the passage. I hope you know some new information, and you got some new vocab and structures. I hope you'd enjoyed watching us. Thank you, and see you next time. Bye-bye.